couple of years ago, I received this box here as a gift. Now, I'm always suspicious of unmarked boxes containing bubble wrap, but this one here was kind of cool, if not completely obsolete. It's a car phone, but that I can tell, this thing has never, ever been unused or never been used before. It's completely unused. This is our radio box. Here's our handset. Here's the bracket that holds down the radio. And then in here, like, there is our hands-free microphone. It's still in the packaging. There's our cradle. Here is a screw and hardware set with little tiny rubber cover plugs and our wiring harness like accessory kit. This is all still stapled in its packaging. That I can tell, like, this is completely unused. None of the cables have been trimmed or terminated. The zip ties are all still in here. It's square from sitting in the box. There's really only one thing that's missing from this car phone kit, and that's the antenna, which I actually already have. I'm sure some people remember these back in the days. It was kind of a status symbol that if you had an antenna like this or something like this on the back of your car on one of the windows, it was usually very indicative that you had a car phone installed in it. Now, the idea behind a car phone being a fad more than just a commodity item was actually very short-lived. The reason that car phones like this existed in the first place is that they were replacing the IMTS and even older MTS mobile telephones, which were so large, so heavy, and so power hungry, you couldn't necessarily carry them around with you. So they just lived into a car. With amps, it was so much more low power that you could now have not just a phone that took up most of your car. It could be, for example, in this small bag here with the antenna and plugged into the cigarette lighter. But we could get even better than that. The bag phone looked very similar in handset design because hiding inside of here is, again, the exact same amps radio with a battery there. Even by the end of the 1980s, we had miniaturized amps phones even to the point of this was the MicroTac. Look how small this phone was. It was no longer luxurious to say, I have a phone in my car. You could whip this out while you were at a meeting or you were at lunch and say, I have a phone in my pocket. And even 10 years after that, we were going even smaller. This is one of my favorite phones. This is the StarTAC. Look how small this thing is. And yet, even with the antenna extended, like, it fits in your pocket, it will give you days of standby time. There was no point to have a car phone anymore, much less brag about it. So the only people who were still buying car phones in the 1990s and even into the early 2000s were commercial operations and fleet vehicle distributors who wanted to have a phone hardwired into the vehicle because more often than not, their employees or their estate agents or whoever were typically more tied to their vehicle than they were walking around separated from their communications method. So the car phone became completely redundant in place of hands-free kits. These days, however, they're completely obsolete. So this one here would work on a cellular band that's called amps. And at the making of this video, that's been shut down now for about 15 or 16 years now. So you can like wire this all up, you can put it into your car, and it's just gonna say no service. So that's a little depressing. On the other hand, you look at a phone like this and you're like, you know what, it would make a very great static prop in your car. And yes, that's true. You can put this into, say, a BMW, a Mercedes, a Lincoln, or something like that and say, I have a car phone. But it always kind of bothered me when I had static objects installed in my vehicles where they don't actually do anything. And they're cool, they're fun to play with, but they're useless. And I'm not the only person who thought about that, saying I have a car phone in my vehicle and I would like to make it practical and usable. In fact, it was, I believe it was a Mitsubishi Diamond-Tel that in recent history someone went and converted so that there was a Bluetooth interface on it. And that meant that you could use the car phone and it was just bridging over to your like smartphone, which may have been like charging in the glove box or sitting in your pocket. Not to be too critical about it, it's a little unfortunate that he got stuck having to work with a Diamond-Tel because when it comes to these Motorola phones, these are a lot more interchangeable than I thought they were going to be. So I have right here your stereotypical bag phone. And this uses pretty much the exact same handset with the same RJ45 connector. The communications protocols between the radio and the handset are pretty much the same. And then I can reach over here and I can grab myself this different OEM car phone. It's still made by Motorola, but this handset here, same RJ45 connector, and, well, pretty much the exact same protocol in here, albeit for much more limited features. So if someone were to go and make a Bluetooth adapter specifically for these style Motorola handsets, I could almost guarantee you there would be a lot more people that would be on board, because there's a lot more of these Motorola car, bag, and mobile phones that use this style of handset floating around. Really, what I want to do here, however, is ask the question, could I get myself a car phone without having to require the weird proprietary reverse engineering nature of making an older handset work? Well, what do I do? Was there any sort of a product that could be able to solve this problem? Now, I don't have any examples from the mid to late 90s and even into the 2000s of these hands-free car kits that were being plugged into these phones. Again, I'm going to be using the StarTAC as an example because I do have part of a car kit for it. And that would simply just plug into the usual charging port on the bottom. You had your audio in inputs and outputs, and even data, if you needed it, would go through this connector here to the control box for the hands-free kit. But you also had a coaxial connection here because the antenna breaks out to the peripheral port underneath. So now you could also have a boosted antenna if you wanted in your car. And then when you wanted to leave, you just simply unclipped it and off you went with your phone. Now, more modern phones have a considerably better take on this. For example, with this NTT Docomo phone here, this just has Bluetooth. Bluetooth gives you an audio channel, a data channel, and a control channel, and it's all easy to set up. You basically just pair with the hands-free device and off you go. The hands-free devices were, in their simplest forms, just an audio amplifier with a speaker, which may be wired into your stereo system, depending on the type of car you had, and a high sensitivity microphone, which would be tucked away somewhere inside the cab, so when you were talking, you didn't have to talk into any one microphone or use the phone at all. And there were countless versions of this. Some of them were OEMs and provided by the vehicle manufacturer. To this day, most vehicles have hands-free kits built in if they say they have Bluetooth. You would have adapter kits that would plug into vehicle head units as aftermarket, and then you had some really weird, hokey, hacky things that just kind of plugged in between, but they were provided by the stereo manufacturer, which was really neat. But what we're going to be talking about here is a Bluetooth hands-free kit which has the world's worst case of feature creep I have ever seen. Like I said, the simplest form of a Bluetooth hands-free unit there is just the box with the amplifier. But maybe we could add into that some sort of interactivity. Like, what if I want to see what my signal strength is on my phone? Or what if I want to know what my battery level is? Or if I have a stereo, which, and this is a thing, I have one, what if my stereo would be able to mute itself when the hands-free kit activated? Well, those are all enhanced features, but now I need some sort of display to control many of these. Otherwise, I have to devise a software app for a phone, and this is the days before smartphones were really prevalent. And that's a whole other can of worms there. Now I have to be a software developer. Can I make this all self-contained? Wait a minute. What if we provided a hands-free kit, but also still provided it with the handset that we would expect of most car phones? I can find one and only one product that ever existed that did exactly that. It's called the Cartel. This box right here is an example of most Cartel phones that seem to still exist. It's interesting, they first started marketing these in the late 2000s, and by the mid-2010s, they were gone. And as a result, they were liquidating them. And I think the reason why they were liquidating them, and they didn't have much success in terms of sales when having an 80s car was all the rage or something like that, $600. This has a $600 price tag on it when it was new. I will admit, to get this boxed unit cost me $400 Canadian. So even today, these are not cheap. And when they do occasionally show up on eBay, they are still not selling for hundreds of dollars, but people want hundreds of dollars for them. So even the liquidators must have been selling these things at some crazy weird loss. But at the same time, for being such a specialty niche product, it's also really, really well thought up. And this box here, it's a brand new car kit. Everything I need to install this into a vehicle is located inside of this box. So let's unbox this kit. So I have first cable right here, nicely terminated, has Euro audio plugs here, and it actually is labeled 2 radio, 2 speaker. So this is an intermediate adapter here. This is one of those harness kits, like I was saying, plugs in between the stereo and your speakers, and then you don't need to have the external hands-free speaker. It just uses the speakers inside of the vehicle. But it appears that there is a hands-free speaker provided here anyways, which leads me to believe that this is optional. So you don't need this or you don't need this. It's an either-or situation here, which is kind of neat. What do I have in here? In here looks to be our wiring harness kit. So this here looks like I'll probably be supplying power. Push out to open. What do we got in here? Okay, so this just has what looks to be an isolation transformer, 2 capacitors, and a fuse. So that's well thought out. An isolation transformer, really nice. And this is the microphone. So this will be stashed away somewhere inside the vehicle, and then you can just kind of talk, and you'll be talking directly into this. It comes with a clip already attached to it, but there's what looks to be an adhesive sticky pad on the back of it as well. So you don't necessarily need to clip it somewhere. You could just stick it somewhere permanently. This is a breakout cable of some sort. So it has a Molex connector on one side, and we have an RJ45 connector and a 2.5mm jack with indication of a headset. What's neat is it actually says 2.5mm. So this is very descriptive. It does have 2 screw holes here, and again, it has an adhesive pad if you just want to stick it down. And it seems to be fairly long. I enjoy that. This is the handset cradle. This looks very familiar to, where did I put those Motorola phones I just had? There it is. Okay, let me grab that. And yeah, these look exactly the same. Is the cradle the same? No, really? Yeah, okay. So the cradles look exactly the same. The mounting holes do look exactly the same. So this is almost a drop-in replacement for the original mounting hardware if you're upgrading from an older amps car phone. And I am aware there was 2G versions of them, GSM stuff, but at this point here, that's pretty much obsolete anyways. And we have the handset here. Oh, okay, so this rubber here is showing signs that it is beginning to powder up and perish. Is it gonna break on me if I do this? It seems kind of stretchy still. Okay. That might try to go for a cleaner and see what happens, but okay, that's pretty cool. So here's the handset. PVT, store, edit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has a full numpad there, arrow controls, send, end. It looks exactly like a car phone, but it has a Bluetooth button. And that there would probably be used for pairing. Beyond that, model CT-1000, it has the same RJ45 connector, though I'm sure this is not protocol compatible with the Motorola phones. This is a really nice looking phone. It's a well-designed product. It does not use the same plastic case as a Motorola or any other phone that I can find. So it emulates everything that you would expect from a car phone. Scratch pad dialing. It has programmable memory locations. It shows battery strength of your cell phone. It shows the signal strength from your cell phone. This has hands-free control, of course, and I'm assuring it also has ringer control of some sort. Does it allow you to customize it? No idea. Really nice looking product though, so I'm starting to justify why it's so expensive. Unfortunately, it was one of the reasons why so many people didn't use it. And I would guess that this here, can I get that box out of the way? There we go. This is probably going to be, yes, it's the control box. So, car harness here, external speaker there, vent holes there, power outlet, and this actually labels the pins on these. So battery, ignition plus, radio mute, hey, that's cute, and negative ground. And on the bottom here, microphone input, extension cord to handset, so that's going to be this. And then there's a little tiny connector right here, Bluetooth upgrade I/O. What the heck is that? And it does have FCC certification. This is really nice. This is a really nicely made product. It's plastic, whatever, but it feels weighty. Does it require an app? Well, it does come with documentation. Unfortunately, it's only 2 pages of documentation. Just kind of the fold-out map thing, 8.5 by 11 glossy. So here's your wiring diagram right there. Nothing special about it. There's our speaker wiring harness there. This here is all optional. Otherwise, we can use this speaker up here. It tells us exactly how to wire everything in here. Yeah, there's a filter and fuse, black ground, red full-time power. Orange is accessory power, so whenever the key is in the on position, this turns on, which probably turns on the phone, microphone input, and the connection here to the handset. And a little note here, 2.5 standard headset plug. You can plug in a standard headset used with most cell phones. When you press PVT on the handset, the audio will be transferred to the handset or to the headset. Press PVT again to go back out of the speaker. So at this time, like if you could get like little hands-free earbud and microphone kits for your phone, and they were 2.5mm jacks. So this is telling me I can take those like off-the-shelf headsets and hands-free kits, plug them into here, push the PVT button on the phone, and it'll switch it over to that. So it just disables the speakers and operates through that. This is a really nicely designed product. Like, no criticisms here so far, besides everything's crammed into this one box, and the documentation is very limited. You see, this is the only other piece of documentation that comes with it, which is the keys and functions. Tells you how to set it up, how to pair it, tells you what the function of every single button is. Really nice. But all of this here is provided by a company called Cartel Solutions Incorporated, Brooklyn, New York. They had a website called bluecarphone.com. That website is dead. And in fact, when it comes to the Cartel CT-1000 and its successor phone, which is a little bit smaller than this, there's almost nothing available. Like, they were really proud of this, and nobody bought them. And they don't show up used. And when they do show up used, they're expensive. Or like this, it doesn't look like it's ever been used. And when it comes to documentation and support, that's all there is. Now, of course, this would be the point in the video where I would demonstrate how this phone works in a real-world application. And one of the cool things is that rather than putting an Amps car phone into my vehicle, I'm going to put the CT-1000 into my vehicle, because unlike the Amps radio, which I don't want to deal with like SDRs and weird bridging and weird proprietary adapters, this here, I could just play it over Bluetooth, and in theory, my modern phone will just work with it. So I'm going to kind of throw this all back together, and we're going to head out to the car, and I'm going to wire it up. Okay, so we're out here and we're ready to install the phone kit into the car. Now, what I'm going to do first is save you a bunch of time, and at the same time, I'm going to eat my own words. Remember how I said that audio harness had these weird Euro standard connectors that were weird? You know what? That's actually a thing called industry standard. These are ISO connectors. So I remember in the 90s and even the early 2000s, if you had a vehicle and you wanted to put an aftermarket stereo, you required adapters. And even for the stereo that's installed in this vehicle right now, I've had to make an ISO to Sony 16-pin adapter just so I can use this configuration. But I was thinking about it and said, well, if we have these connectors, I might as well just go the rest of the way. So I've already gone and I've converted the vehicle's harness from Sony 16-pin, which is what I originally wired it for, and then I made it ISO. And then I made this fancy little adapter, which now plugs in between the car, the radio, and the car phone, which allows me to connect everything together with a bunch of harnesses. And then I've stuffed it all underneath the dash here, so it's ready to accept it. Now, we have to figure out first where we're going to mount this box. For those folks who are used to AMC vehicles, you may understand that what I'm rocking around right here, this is called the center console or center gauge option. Normally, this doesn't fit into a vehicle like this because we're missing the lower parcel tray, which is supposed to be here and supports it. Well, I didn't want to have that installed in this vehicle. So what I did instead is I manufactured my own brackets that run down and support this center tray package right here in the middle. As a result of having control of designing my own brackets, I've already made provisions to install the control box and the phone cradle into a location already, which saves me a bunch of time as well. This little cross bracket right here, as loose and wobbly as it is, that doesn't really matter. This here has already been pre-drilled and pre-threaded for support to support the box right there. So I will take out both of our self-tappers, and then I can take our box. And as I'm tightening this on here, it's actually also tightening the bracket as well, so it's not as wobbly anymore. There we go. There we go. And then we can add ourselves the power harness right there, and then we can add in our audio harness on the other side here. Okay, and then we have to go grab ourselves the handset. Okay, and then the handset plug connects down here, and that just snaps in like that. And then lastly, that makes this completely legal. Remember, we don't need the speaker, that's optional because we're using the speakers built into the car now. We need to plug in the microphone, which will allow me to talk into the system. Okay, now let's mount the phone. The microphone is mounted on the other side of the center console package, right out down in the footwell near where I'll be speaking when I'm driving. Okay, now let's mount the cradle. Now this right here is actually the structural support brace that goes across to the other side of my bracket. I've extended it out several inches specifically because that's then where the handset cradle will go. Now it only has 4 screw holes on the back. If you have the angled bracket adapter, which is almost identical to what was used by Motorola phones and the likes to mount, that will work. Instead, however, I have this metal sandwich here and nuts and bolts and screws, which are basically going to hold over this and attach the bracket onto that. There, okay. Now, when it comes to the actual handset socket, it has an adhesive pad on the back. Because the bracket also has a giant flat metal surface on the back of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this adhesive pad, and now I can attach this discreetly behind the handset cradle, maybe reinforce the wire here with a zip tie, but now that hides completely behind the cradle. And now I can connect the handset. And there we go. We're all set up and ready to test. All right, we're all settled in here. I got my phone nearby. Let's see what happens when I turn the accessory on. There we go. Oh. Oh, man. Yes. I don't know if you heard a click as well, but you could hear that that was over the car speakers. That wasn't just from the handset itself. Okay. Oh, and it turns the brightness off after a timeout. That's really cool. Okay, so I am assuming it wants me to pair it with a phone. So let's do that. I'm going to whip out my iPhone. There we go. Can we get it? What was that? I'm sure they licensed that sound. That was very MSN. Okay, where was I? So actually what that was doing there is it told on the screen it couldn't see a device. So I'm assuming I have to put into Bluetooth pairing mode. Sorry, the phone's not going to be fun here. So, no, let's not do cellular. Let's do Bluetooth. Okay, so there we go. And I have to... Man, this is really glary, isn't it? Yeah, no, it's just the way it is. All right, well, I'll hit the Bluetooth button here. Uh-oh. There we go. Connecting. And it shows the cartel. So 0000 We'll do pair. Is it going to connect to me? Oh, give me a break. Come on. All of these sounds are making me very nostalgic. Oh, check it out. Okay, hold on a second here. So right now it is showing signal strength, cellular, my phone's battery, and what it's paired to right now. Can I see? I don't have pad dialing. Can I not see? Come on. Man, this is really difficult to work with. I think these... Uh-oh. Oh, no, that still works. Okay, well, if the phone portion of this is behaving, what I think we can do is I'm going to go grab the house phone and try calling this. With the talk button there, and let's see what happens when I call this cell phone. Oh, that's kind of terrible, but at the same time, okay. Stop that. There we go. Now that says one missed call. That actually has caller ID, so I'm trying to have to be very careful here. It's saying incoming call from that number. What happens if I pick this up? No, it doesn't say, once it hangs up, it doesn't actually say what it is. Okay, cool. So I can send a phone call to it. Sure, my phone will ring still, but the ringtone goes over Bluetooth, which doesn't sound all that great, and then it's played, because I have the stereo kit here, through the vehicle speakers. It's worth pointing out, the stereo is not on right now, so I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to have a CD in here. Sure, the Black Mesa soundtrack's a pretty good one to work with. So I have something working there. Let's try this again. Oop. No. 2. So let's say I'm driving along, listening to my music. Oh, and it clicks over and this catches it. Okay. We'll hit the send. Hello? Oh no, it's got terrible feedback. There. How about that? So are you talking to me through the hands-free? Yes, you are. And I don't have to pick up the phone, but I assume it's just better, only more private. Oh, this is so cool. Okay, so I'm going to end the call here. And is it going to click back over to Black Mesa? Will it give me a chance at all? Oh, yes, it will. Oh my God, this thing is such a beautiful piece of 2000s tech. Okay, let's try this the other way around. The stereo is playing, and I want to make a call from this. So I'm going to call my house number again here. Pardon me. And it actually cuts away, and it shows it on the phone there. So it's going to... Oh, and it rings the local phone. Oh, that's cool. Hit talk. Hello. Hello. Yes, it's working. Cool. And I'm going to hit end on that. It says call ended. Does it click me back over to the audio again? It does. There's a notable delay. And then it comes back, which is, oh, it's just so beautifully functional. I love it. So, in summary, the Cartel CT-1000 Bluetooth hands-free system, which in reality is a full-on Bluetooth car phone masquerading as a hands-free set. Is this thing worth it? Well, it's not $600 worth it, but it's really, really, really good at nailing down the whole car phone aspect. Bluetooth only. There is no apps that it has to deal with. There is no phone operating system requirements it has to deal with. You pair it, it works. It works beautiful as a hands-free speakerphone as well, so you can still work with that. And if you don't mind some DIY wiring that you're gonna have to do to install this kit, if you can find it for like $150 and it's that like complete as mine with all the cables and all that, yeah, sure, go for it. If that is what you want in your vehicle in this day and age, go for it. My only warning is to double check though with your local driving jurisdiction to see whether these devices are allowed with or without the hands-free feature in your vehicle. Well, that's all for this video here. I really hope you enjoyed watching me install the CT-1000 as well as test it, and really I am quite pleasantly surprised at how good of a product it is. And until next time, have a good one.